Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild walkthrough. Apparently I forgot to cut out this loading screen, so I guess that'll be an okay buffer for my narration. In fact, I could just pause the video, snip it out, and then restart the narrating, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna leave it because, mistakes happen, and that is okay. That is going to be the main theory behind this game, is mistakes are going to happen, and you're gonna die a lot, and it'll be fine. Weirdly, they did a really good job making you not care so much that you die in this game, because when you do die, it's extremely obvious why you died, and it's almost immediately apparent what you need to do to avoid dying in the first place. So it's great for learning curves, because games that just hold your hand the whole way, I mean, we've been saying this for decades now, haven't we? Games that hold your hands are just dumb. They're not fun. If there's no learning, if there's nothing to figure out, they're not good. So anyway, here's Brigo, one of the first and probably least memorable people we're going to be running into outside of the King of Hyrule. So you may be thinking, this place seems pretty empty. Where are all the towns? We will be running into towns later. This guy, like I said, one of the first guys you'll probably run into if you do head toward these Dueling Peaks. He's going to let you know that shrines are popping up, and you may not have realized, oh, maybe I should go pick up that shrine that's right behind me, so he will thankfully remind you. He also talks about some of the guardians, and I haven't actually come back here. I wonder if he's still here later on in the game. I'm not really sure, but anyway, he just kind of rambles a little bit, and it's worth talking to people because they will either give you quests, which you can tell easily by seeing if there's an exclamation point in the name bubble that shows up when you get close enough to target them, or they might give you useful information, or they might give you shrine quests. Some of them might just give you something, usually not though. So talk to people that you see, talk to everybody, and it's just kind of a fun experience. This game is just, I don't know why, it's just the kind of game where I don't mind wandering around yapping to people for an hour, and I don't mind walking around in the overworld like an idiot for an hour, and I don't mind hunting down goats to shoot them forever because we want some meat. So hunting at nighttime isn't really so fun, but you can avoid these skeleton bokoblins pretty easily. Now I'm gonna be shooting most of these live game that I see in my way. I guess I could just say prey, right? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to be shooting most animals that I see just because they drop meat, and meat, especially early on in the game and even later in the game, is going to be one of the best sources for food because it's really easy to get a hold of, heals a lot of hearts, and you can cook a ton of it pretty quickly. So here's another bokoblin camp, and I think this one almost gets me wrecked a little bit. The purpose of this video, I don't know if I mentioned that. Anyway, the purpose of this video is going to be getting to the tower, which I believe is called the Dueling Peaks Tower. I'll have to double check on that. The correct name will be in the title. But later on, I'm not really going to be focusing so much on these bokoblin camps. Right now, I just want to get some monster parts. I want to get arrows, mostly. That's going to be the most important thing. We'll be able to buy all the arrows that we want later on in the game, but since arrows are going to be a little bit difficult to come by, killing those bokoblin archers and then picking up the 5 arrows that they drop is going to be one of the most consistent ways for you to get them early on, especially since it's going to take us forever to get any decent amount of rupees, and it'll just kind of take a while. So right there, that guy with his stupid bokoblin bat, I thought for sure I was going to be able to stun him by whacking him enough times, but he was completely unfazed. So this, I think, is actually one of the first times I've eaten anything. It also kind of demonstrates how much more powerful your weapon can be if you light it on fire, and that also means their weapons will be quite a bit more powerful if they are lit on fire. To do that part correctly, I would have tossed away 2 weapons and then picked up the weapon and the shield that was sitting against that log there. That way, those bokoblins would have had nothing to fight with, and they would have probably found something, but they would have had to have ran pretty far away to find it. So consider doing that in the future, but for the most part, I don't care too much. Of course, if you clear out a camp, every now and then there will be a chest that will activate. This one has an opal in it, which will be very useful for selling for rupees, but I normally don't sell them until near the end of the game. That's usually when you are completely sure you're not going to need a ton of them, and you're going to have way more opals than completely necessary. So this is part of the reason why I recommended getting a stamina vessel over a heart container when we had 4 of those orbs that we turned in earlier. And it's because we're allowed, or we are capable of swimming over that ocean right there, and that gets us to the other side pretty quickly. There are other places you can get across, so you don't have to do that, but that's just one way to do it. There's also another goat here that I'm going to shoot. So if you are going to be hunting, just make sure you don't run straight into them. Make sure you crouch, sneak, and then aim for the face. If you don't hit them in the face and you don't get that nice little ting that means critical, then you might not kill them in one hit, which means they may get away. If they do get away, I wouldn't really waste your arrows. I would try to use one arrow for one critical per enemy or per creature, especially early on in this game. Later on, I'm just saying, like, I want to try to make this walkthrough as easy as possible and using kind of as few things as possible, relying the most on what I pick up and not having to go somewhere and grind for an hour or so to get what we need. So that's going to be the main idea behind this, which is why I'm really saying be frugal with your arrows, but you may not have to be, especially if you're going to play this game a little bit less perfectly. I'm not going to say I'm going to play it perfect, but if you're going to play it less focused than I am, then you won't have to worry too much. So in that case, I'm just going to wait for that bokoblin to turn around. He is the only one around here for some strange reason. But the place we'll be going is up here to the left, and you don't have to fight these bokoblins. You can go straight to that tower, which is right next to us, conveniently. But I decided because, you know, I want to kill him, I want to get some items, get more arrows if I can. And I can see this guy, I thought he saw me, so I thought he was going to come running straight toward me, but that isn't what was going to happen. So I decided to sneak over here, run up on top of this rock, and then I think I'm going to shoot him in the face. So you'll also notice kind of to the right there before I turned away, there was a rock, and you can burst those rocks open with bombs or heavy weapons. But they believe they have to be a metal weapon to be able to break the rock, and they do a bunch of damage to your sword. I will show it either in this video or the next video, so I won't actually recommend you use weapons to break open those rocks right away. Especially this early on, weapons are just going to be a little bit too valuable for that, and most of the gems you'll be getting from them at this point is going to be flint and rock salt, maybe an amber or an opal, but rock salt I don't think I've actually used at all in any of my playthroughs. Flint is pretty useful, so that'll be one reason to open it up, but other than that, just save your weapons, use the bombs. The downside with the bombs is that they make the ores fly everywhere. And one thing that I'm going to consider kind of an annoying oversight on Nintendo's part is that if you knock these people off of cliffs, they don't have fall damage. So it doesn't matter how far enemies fall, if you knock them off a cliff with a bomb or anything, they don't die. Now, I think that one died because he went into the water, and I guess they can't swim, bokoblins can't swim. But if I were to knock him off of a cliffside like that mountain right in front of me, he wouldn't lose any health, which is just kind of annoying. Now, if they do fall off, they're going to be down there until you walk away. If you walk away far enough, they will come back for some reason, and you'll have to kill those ones again. All their health comes back too. But if you just kind of stay in the area that you knocked them off, collect what you need, and then leave, you don't really have to worry about it. The only thing you'll miss out on is picking up their drops. There's also a cooking container, or a cooking pot here, not a container, there's a cook pot here, and we're going to use it to cook 2 of our meats, and this one, for some reason, I don't know if it was like a critical cook or what, but that one was a 5-heart meat skewer, and I'm only doing 1 at a time. If you cook 2 meats at the same time, you'll get even more hearts, but anyway, I cooked this meat, and I just got 2, which is more what I was expecting, so that's why I'm going to be hunting things mostly, is just because it's a really consistent, easy way to get food on your way to places, and you cook 5 or 6 steaks and you have a pretty dang good supply of food. So then we'll walk on over to this part and we'll be able to glide here onto the tower. This is also another example as to why I say getting a stamina vessel is more useful, because it makes climbing these towers quite a bit less stressful. You can climb up without jumping with one vessel absolutely fine. You'll be able to make it to each of these little mini checkpoints okay, but having that extra bit of stamina just to give you kind of that buffer so you know you're not going to fall off is great, and it's going to be even better later on in the game when we get more stamina. We're not going to have to worry about running out when we climb basically anything. So just make it up here to the top. This is going to be one of the easiest towers we're going to get a hold of. A lot of the other towers are going to be quite a bit more challenging, and I really wish a few of them were like stupidly difficult to climb, but for the most part none of them were stupidly difficult. They just kind of had some little curve you had to get over, which was okay. I mean, I really like how it's kind of a challenge in a way to climb each tower, rather than it's really super easy to get to the top and then scan the area and off you go. So this will also be one of our last additions to our Sheikah slate, and this sort of disappointed me a tiny bit because this is the only tower that's going to give you an upgrade to anything, really. I thought all the towers in the game were going to give us some kind of addition to something, like, I don't know, maybe an extra inventory space, but no, this is the only tower that, besides revealing the location around you, this is the only one that's going to give you any reward in return. So when you're this high up, it's a really good idea to look around you, mark shrines, mark other towers that you see if you want to go do them, or kind of make a note, okay, I need to come back to this tower later because there's shrines I need to come back to, or there's another tower I can easily see that I should probably get on top of. So this shows the map and where we're heading, which is over there to the right, and we'll be getting to that in a couple of videos, but we will, of course, be getting sidetracked before that, and of course we unlock the Sheikah sensor. This will let us sense shrines that are around us in a pretty tight radius. So basically, if you're wandering around and your sensor starts beeping, there's a shrine nearby, and it's really helpful for ones that are behind rocks or even hidden underground, but for the most part, you're probably not going to be relying on it too heavily. That'll be it for this video, and we will continue on in the next one when we do yet another shrine.